That's right. North America. This is Morocco. This is Morocco. El Nexum. This is the place. What you talking about? There was people here before the Moors came here to the Americas. No, the Moors, this is the Moors' house. This is our place. This is El Morocco. El Nexum. Is this Morocco? El Nexum? Any of that stuff? Well, we're going to talk about it coming up. What is North America and who are the Moors? Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, yours truly, Diva. We're going to do it right here. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree, with UNA University, UNA Republic. Yeah. Come on in. Come on in. 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Oh, I gotta do my dance. My hair don't move. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. This is the remix. This is the remix. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree, with the UNA University, UNA Republic. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. If y'all want to know where you can find us, go to the profile. Click the link in the profile so you can get in touch with us. Today, the topic is who. It says who are the Moors. We're going to talk about who were the Moors, and then you can determine who are the Moors today. All right. So who were the Moors, and who are the Moors today? All right. So who were the Moors? Now, first of all, it was all about what were the Moors. The Moors, the black Moors, the people who sailed, the sailors, the Moroccans. Okay, so we're gonna get into that. But I remember I was in this group called Ashtaninus AA, African Americans are not African, that group. And one of the things I remembered when I was in that group, they hated the Moors. Now, I had just started understanding this stuff from the standpoint of those who were calling themselves Moors. And so they were saying, oh, you know, all the Moor meant black, and Moor had to do with dark skin. And even though they were saying, oh, you know, all the Moor meant black, and Moor had to do with dark skin. And even though that's what I was hearing, they were saying, oh, you know, all the Moor meant black, and Moor had to do with dark skin. And even though that's what I was hearing, like and share it anyway. Who's in the house? Tamika, Halo. Oh, Hair Health Herbalist is in the house. Ife Tayo, Evangela. My students in the house. Halo. Beautiful day, Evangela. Sunset Beach is in the house. Who else is here? All right, I want to thank y'all for joining me today. Am I still free? Am I freezing to all of you all out there? I need to jump out and come back in. All right. Am I freezing, you guys? Hello? Anybody? All right, so yeah, they're saying I'm not freezing. Okay, I just want to make sure before I get started into this wonderful, wonderful session. Um, okay, so here we go. As I was saying, I was in this group, and the whole thing was that there was this hate for the Moors, and I had to go dig deep into into the research, because we had, this group over here, these people who are saying they're the Moroccans and from Morocco, and they came in and they're controlling everything, and North America belongs to Morocco. And again, I was having a hard time finding any kind of documentation that showed this anywhere. And then I'm in this group. I didn't stay in it for long, but I was in this group, and these people hated anything concerning the term Moor, and I didn't understand it. They couldn't explain it, and so I had to do research. Well, come to find out, they had a disdain for the term Moor because there were a group of people who came into the Americas and enslaved, and these are dark-skinned people. These are a group of dark-skinned people that came into the Americas and enslaved the original people of the land, those who we know of as Indians. My research also shows that the original people in this land known as Americas were known as Washita Moors, M-U-U-R, not to be confused with M-O-O-R. And we're going to go over the difference right now, as a matter of fact. When we're talking about M-U-U-R, we're talking about people. These were dark-skinned, melanated folks or carbonated people coming from this land known as Lemuria or Mu. Lemuria or Mu. These were people who supposedly were shifted or walked over, however they got into the land of the Americas. But Lemuria was known to sit right to the between what we know of as North America and the land known as the Asias. All right, Lemuria was to sit near California on that side of the ocean. So at any rate, you've got these people who transitioned from Lemuria into Mu. Washita Moors is what they're known as, and these are, according to science, the oldest known people on the planet. All right, these are dark-skinned people, melanated folks that were in this land. And then you have these other group of people who calling themselves Moors and showing homage or paying homage to Morocco, and they've got this star on the flag. And okay, well, what's going on? Because these people supposedly came from another land, and these are Hebrew-speaking people, according to my research. So the deal is, what I found is somebody is muddying the history. Somebody is muddying the history. And the deal is, we've got to know what's really going on. We've got to know, who these people are. All right. So the facts that are coming out is that there were a group of people from the land that we know of as Africa, that we know of as the Middle East. All right. And we're going to get into that tonight, that came into the land known of as Americas. And then they enslaved and they degraded the status of the original people of the land. So let's get into this, all right? Welcome, everybody. Kimberly. Who else is in the house? All right. Y'all say hello. Halo. Say hello to me so I know you're here. All right. Now, let's get into this. So I'm going to start back at the time that we know of, 1492. All right. And before I get into this, let's go into what more the term M-O-O-R. We understand what M-U-U-R means. M-O-O-R. Okay. We're ready to get into M-U-U-R means those who came from the land of Mu or Lemuria. M-O-O-R is a verb. Let's understand that. When we hear people talking about, it means dark skin and it means black. Okay, let's get into it. Let's see why that can't be the case. Look up the term mooring and moored. All right. Those are verbs. They have to do with jobs done on a ship. Moors were people who sailed, people who navigated. All right. And the term moor comes from mooring, which is a job done on a ship. Now you'll also hear people say, "Oh, well, moor means swamp lands," or okay, something dealing with water. All right, it has everything to do with water and the fact that these people are sailors. Does it have anything to do with skin color? No. Well, why do you say it's diva? Because all the Moors was dark skin. Okay. Ask your friends, your Moor friends, of these people who are telling you this stuff. Was there such thing as Albion Moors? Albion as in so-called white. Your light skin. Was there such thing as Albion Moors? I don't call them white. Those of us who know better know that they're not white. All right. I'm not going into what white and black means tonight. I'm dealing with the term Moor. Now, when you ask them, was there such thing as Albion Moors? Well, yes. Well, then how you telling me that Moor had anything to do with skin color? It didn't. Moor had nothing to do with skin color at all. It had to do with a job done on a ship. And the vast majority of which people tended to be dark skinned. Let's talk about who these people were. I'm going to go back to 1492 with Christopher Columbus. That infamous Christopher Columbus. Now, they want us to believe that Christopher Columbus was an Albion, light skinned, so-called white being. Now, one of the things when you do your research, you're going to find out that Christopher Columbus was a convert to Christianity. He converted to Christianity. Why? Because he didn't want to get kicked out of Spain. Now, who was the king and queen of Spain? They were melanated people. And the other question should be, well, what did he convert from? What did Christopher Columbus convert from? He converted from, some will tell you, Judaism or Jew, that he converted from being Jewish. And then others will tell you he converted from being a Muslim. Bottom line, both of those religions, that you can trace those back to the 12 tribes. What are the 12 tribes? The 12 tribes of Israel. This is the tribe where Judah was, the so-called Jews. Now, the original Jews, as most people know, were dark-skinned people. And again, the tribe of Judah, the term Jew is shortened from the tribe of Judah. All right? So what happens is you've got Columbus, who's a convert from, let's say it's a Muslim or a Jew, it doesn't matter. Those are dark-skinned people. If he was in those religions, he likely, and again, when we're talking about Muslims, most of those were converts from those who were in the 12 tribes under the Mosaic laws. So again, these are melanated people, not to mention that this was the Dark Ages. Where was the Albion at this time? They were not running things. When you're talking about royalty, all royalty comes from dark-skinned people. All of them were originally dark-skinned. And so this is why at this time you had Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. Those were melanated folks. And so you got Christopher Columbus, who's coming in here and he's trying to convince these melanated royal people to give him money so that he can sail a ship to a place that we don't even know if it exists or not. So now I'm letting you know that this Christopher Columbus character, they're trying to whitewash him the same way they whitewashed Jesus of Nazareth. All right? He about as Albion as Jesus of Nazareth. And we know Jesus couldn't have been no Albion if he's coming from these tribes that they're saying he comes from. All right. So now we're understanding. These are Moors or melanated people coming over here into the land. All right. So I'm talking about Columbus because he was a Moor. So the term Moor didn't have anything to do with a skin color. It had to do with a job, a sailor, something that they did. And so when you're talking about the term Moor, you have Moors coming from Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma, Britain. All right. Most of them were melanated. And when you're talking about your Jews, look up this book called Columbus and His Jewish Friends, or something about the Jew friends that Columbus sailed with. And it's letting you know that he was hanging out with Jews, and the original Jews were melanated coming into this land known as the Americas. All the way up to the mid 1800s, they were melanated people. Okay? So, again, they were considered Moors because of the job that they did. So now, we understanding this. Now, these folks coming over here are melanated. Now, if you want to go back into the history of Moors, you want to look up terms like Phoenicians. Look up, once again, the 12 tribes. And let me say this. Don't believe anything I say. Do not believe anything I say. I'm giving you what my research shows. I want you to go prove me wrong. Go and research it for yourself. Prove me wrong. All right. So you've got, again, Phoenicians. You can look up the 12 tribes. You can look up Muslims. So why am I bringing these terms up? Because these are your Moors. Your Phoenicians came from that tribe, most of which were known as Jews. Most of these Phoenicians were very, very good at government, creating contracts. This is what they did. And they got kicked out of places a lot too, because of their black business practices where they tie people into contracts and enslave them. That's what they were good at. So you've got these Moors that are sailing. Christopher Columbus was the one who was able to get financing. Now remember, Christopher Columbus is going to these royal people who are melanated, and he's saying, hey, there's this land, and I want you to give me some money so I can sail this ship out to this land. All right. Now, if you're coming to me as royalty and you're talking about you want to sail, you need to have sailed before. You need to show me that you have knowledge of how to navigate with the stars. You need to show me that you got a crew and a team. Once again, I say to you, who were the light-skinned people at that time, and what were they doing? The Albions they don't have power like that at this time, 1400s. This was coming out of the Dark Ages. All right, so now, who were the Moors? There were many different groups of Moors. As I told you, they were coming from a lot of different places. They were just sailors. All right. There was a particular group that came into the Americas, 1400s, 1500s, that knew government, as I spoke about. And they had started to create governments, what we know of today as counties. Counties were created by a group of Moors. Now, I call them elite Moors. Why do I call them elite Moors? Because they had an elite knowledge. And that included knowing how to create governments and run governments. All right. there was another group of Moors that we call British that came in and created what we know of today as states. So when you talk about those 13 colonies from Virginia on down, and look up, once again, look up the Virginia Company. Look up the Virginia Company. This was the same company that you all know of today as the state of Virginia. It's a company. That's a British colony that it was owned by Britain. It's a company owned by Britain. Now today, they got 50 companies over here in North America. Okay. And you all think that they're the United States of America. No, they owned by Britain. These states of California, state of Washington, state of, those are corporations that belong to what we know of as Britain. So you've got these British who are Moors that have created these colonies. And then you have these other Moors, and not necessarily from Morocco, who created what we know of as the United States of America today. All right. So what happened is that you have now two groups of melanated people. Let me back up, because let's keep it clear. Y'all know that when Columbus came in the land, there was already another people here. They were carbonated people. As I told you, there were what we call as Moors, Washita Moors, already in the land. These were dark-skinned people. They was already here. So then you got this other group of Moors, elite Moors in here. Then you got the British in here creating the Virginia Company. And these are two different governments that are in here. So you got three different groups. By the way, when I say British, y'all be thinking Albions. The British were melanated as well. Amalgamated, meaning they had started to mix with the Albion, but they were melanated people. So you got three groups of melanated folks. The original people, you got these elite Moors, and then you got the British. And by the way, just so we are clear on this, the Queen of England was melanated all the way up to the mid-1800s. So we're talking about in the 1500s. 1500s, Queen of England was melanated. So three groups of melanated folks in this land. Who are the Moors? Just again, when you talk about Moors, the original people of the land, they didn't speak Hebrew and they did not call themselves Moors. Those people coming in, those elite Moors, and these are the ones, these elite Moors who created the United States of America. They created the Constitution. So that's why you'll hear people say, oh, the Constitution was based off of Islam. No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, they were very much against religion. They didn't want people to be persecuted for their religion. Going back to Christopher Columbus. All right, I told you he was getting kicked out. That's why he converted. He converted from whether he was Muslim or Jew. He converted. Now, one of the things he wanted to do, the reason why he wanted to set sail is because he wanted to find a land where his people would not be persecuted for their religion. So one of the things about the Americas and the United States of America was that it was very much against any religion in particular. And I shouldn't say against. It was accepting of all religions. It was one of the places where you would go. That's why the land of the free, home of the brave, where you could go and you would not be persecuted because you were Jew, because you were Christian, because you were Muslim. This was that land where none of that was supposed to take place. So when we're talking about more, let's keep in mind that we are specifically talking about, all right, people who sailed, people who navigated, people who came from another land. And when you hear people keep saying, oh, well, they was all the same. The original people was more too. Let me go into that and let's understand this. In 1777, this is when the Declaration of Independence came about. And why? What was going on in the land? So you had the original people of the land who were really being run over, not only by Britain, but by those elite Moors that were in here running things. Now, Britain was being tyrannical. They were just running a tyrant on, or being a tyrant rather, on everyone in the land. They were doing illegal things. And if you go read the Declaration, it's not that long. It's just a few pages. Go read the Declaration of Independence, and you're going to see that the same thing they're doing today is the same thing they were doing back then. You know, arresting people without any cause, not having fair trials, stealing people's money, just being very disrespectful to the people. And so you had these elite Moors in here who had already established these counties, but you had Britain over here with their corporations. And these elite Moors were saying, all right, we want Britain out. All right. So at this time, they had started to form what we know of as the United States of America. Please do not confuse this with the United States. There are two United States, for those of you who don't know. There are two. There's the United States Corporation, which belongs to Britain. And then there's the United States of America, which was created by those elite Moors. But they did it with the approval of the original people of the land. All right. How do we know this? And I've read off documents before where the original people of the land were trying to communicate with those who were running the United States of America. And they were making it clear that the United States of America was being disrespectful to the land and taking over more and more land from the original people. All right. So what happens is you've got these elite Moors in here. And what they did once they established the United States of America is they degraded the status of the original people from Indian, or whatever they were being called back then. But they degraded the status from Indian to colored and Negro. And the thing is, in black, the original Negroes or colored people, they were not melanated. I know y'all don't understand that, because then I would have to break down exactly what those terms mean. I got a class to go to, and I don't have time. But what I will tell you is this, all right? Names have been switched. Things have been changed. And so you got to do your own research and understand where these terms come from. And I mean, you need to dig. Don't just go with what somebody said or somebody's book or somebody's synopsis, because it's not just the Albion or light-skinned people that are hiding the history from us. There's some melanated people in this game that are hiding the true history from us. And so you've got to do your own research. You've got to do your own research. You've got to go back and look for yourself. Don't believe me. Don't believe what somebody else says. Don't just read somebody's book and take their word for it. Because one of the things for me, I want to hear the ancestors speak. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look up the actual documentation. There are treaties that you can go and look up. And I have a list of them. I won't call out the website because y'all lose your attention span gets weak when I start calling out the websites. But listen, there are treaties that I have read all the way through that tell you what was really going on in the land. When you read the documents, the public documents, the legal documents stating what's going on in the land, then you find out, oh, wait a minute, there was another group running the United States of America. And then there was a different group running the colonies. That's why they were called the British colonies. Well, there still are British colonies. State of California, state of Georgia, state of Texas, state of South Dakota. All of those states anything state of is owned by Britain. Now there's another state, there's a Georgia Republic. There's a California Republic. There's a Texas Republic. They belong to the United States of America. But you're not doing business with them because nobody understands the difference between the state of Georgia versus Georgia Republic. You got a lot of melanated people in here thinking when you say republic, they flinch. This has nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with your God-given rights. The republic protects your God-given rights at all costs. So, who were the Moors? All right. Once again, it had nothing to do with skin color. When you look up moored, M-O-O-R-E-D, or mooring, M-O-O-R-I-N-G, you find that this is a verb that deals with a job done on a ship. Well, weren't the Moors sailors? Yes, they were. And again, if you ask those people who are dealing with this, those Moors, they're going to tell you, there was some Albion Moors. Well, then why are you telling me the term had anything to do with skin color? It couldn't have if you're telling me that. So, again, we're understanding now that there are three groups of melanated people. That's just with the original people, the elite Moors, and then the people from Britain. All right, now let's go a little deeper, because what happened in was it 1786 to 1789. All right, you had Morocco, or the Revolutionary War. During this Revolutionary War, Britain got their butts kicked by the United States of America. All right. Britain got their butts kicked by the United States of America. They kicked them out. And I need y'all to understand that when this happened, this was like a hostile takeover. Britain had all of these colonies, these 13 colonies down here. And I'm saying this along the coast. And they were making a lot of money for Britain, where you had these elite Moors saying, we don't want Britain in this territory anymore. This is a hostile takeover. You're going to stop my money train. Well, we're going to fight about this. And so what ended up happening is that United States of America, those Moors who were running that, they won that. And they successfully kicked Britain out. However, what ended up happening is Britain sent in Morocco. Y'all pay attention. Pay attention, because one of the things that we're not understanding, especially when these people keep talking about, oh, Morocco, and the flag with the green star, and the red flag, and the cherry tree, and the George Washington chopped down cherry tree. I need y'all to understand something. Britain and Morocco had been in bed together since the 1500s. And I want y'all to go and look up the Barbary Company. Look up the Barbary Company. And then find out who the Barbary states were. These were states that participated in what we call piracy. They were pirates. They steal your ships and sell your stuff. And they take over land. They were land-stealing thieves. Who were the Barbary companies? Or countries, rather. Who were the Barbary countries? Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma, Morocco. These were your Barbary states. And who were they in bed with? Britain. Britain was the one they were doing the most business with. What were they trading off? Sugar and other services, the main one being sugar. And so Britain is the one owned all of this stuff. And now when Britain got their butt kicked, and that's why people try to show me maps all the time. They want to show me, oh, Morocco owned it. And then they'll show me a map and they have a little dot. And it'll say M-A-U. And they're like, that's Morocco right there. Anything with M-A-U, that's Morocco. That means a Mauritanian. That's Morocco. I'm like, but it's a little dot. How about all this land over here that's owned by Italy, and how about all this land owned by Spain, and how about all this land over here owned supposedly by Britain, and then Germany even had land supposedly. France had land in here. Where's Morocco? You talking about that little dot? Okay, why does that not make sense? Because they didn't own anything, and what happened was Britain was controlling a certain amount of the territory. And then you had these Moors in here running the United States of America. All right. And Britain owned a certain amount of territory. And then these elite Moors wanted them out, kicked them out successfully. However, George Washington came into the game. He had already been a part of the military. But, you got to understand who George Washington was. George Washington was a direct descendant of the Queen of England. A direct descendant. Now, anybody who does their research and find the original 13th Amendment will find out that the original 13th Amendment said that there is to be no royalty as a president. If you're a president and if you want to be president, you cannot be a president if you're a king, queen, duchess, or anything like that. Any kind of royalty, you can't, you don't qualify, because they specifically did not want the United States of America to fall into any kind of royalty or bloodline control. But they didn't recognize who George Washington was. George Washington comes in and he changes the Constitution. And you can read that when I get these Moors throwing this George Washington's letter to the Sultan. What he clearly says in that letter, when y'all read it and stop letting somebody regurgitate you information, he says, well, I changed the Constitution. And one of the things he changed was that 13th Amendment, which would have made him not eligible for presidency. Now, for those of y'all who done your research, you know that every president from George Washington on down to Barack Obama and everybody in between are related by blood. If you've done your research, then you know that George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and everybody in between them had melanin. They want you to think George Washington was Albion. They also want you to think George Washington was the first president. He was not. So when I go back to telling you about who actually founded the United States of America, these are dark-skinned people. They want you to think the Continental Congress and there were no Listen, George Washington comes into play in 1789. The United States of America was running since 1777. That's 13 years in between there. Anybody who knows, 1777 is when they say the United States was incorporated. United States of America, rather, was incorporated. If that's the case, then they got to have a president, a vice president, a chair. And you have to have all of these things in order for your organization to be recognized as a corporate entity or any kind of legal entity. So you tell me from 1777 to 1789, they didn't have a president. They had to have a president. And the thing was, they don't want you to know that there was at least 6 of them. And they were melanated. You go do your research on that. There were at least 6. And they were melanated. But they want you to think George Washington was the first president. All right. Who were the Moors? Who were the Moors? George Washington was a Moor. The British coming in here were Moors. The elite people running the United States of America were Moors. The Moroccans, the fourth set of melanated people that I can discuss at this time, were Moors. Because, as I said, between 1786 and 1789, Britain was successfully kicked out. And what they did was they called in the dogs. Who's the dogs? Morocco. They sicked Morocco on the United States of America to get them and seize the ports. And that's exactly what they did. They seized the ports in their ships, and anything coming in to the ports of the United States of America. Oh, Morocco would seize that and then steal it and sell it. Now, this is why the United States had to come up with the Peace and Friendship Treaty and the Barbary Treaties. What was coming in on those ships should be the question. What was coming in on those ships? Because they want to tell you all about the Atlantic slave trade and this and that and that. What about the Barbary Treaties? Why did that have to go down? Because there were slaves coming in on those ships. Who was on those ships? Who were those slaves? You want to look that up. Those were Albions, light-skinned people. Light-skinned people. So the original slaves, what you're not being told, in the Americas were Albions, so-called white people. I'm not talking about no indentured servants either. All right? I'm not talking about indentured servants. I'm talking about full-fledged slaves. Pay attention. And once again, don't believe anything I say. Go look it up. The term slave is derived from the term Slavic and Slovakian. Look it up. These was not dark-skinned people. They were Albions. Slavic and Slovakian. Well, you got to understand something. You know, we so busy. Well, how many of us came over here on the Atlantic slave trade? And it couldn't have been, it's mathematically impossible for all these black people to come over here on the, okay. Well, we know that Albions are not from here. We know this is not their land. Why don't anybody think about how so many of them got over here? How so many Albions get into the land? Why don't anybody think about how so many of them got over here? How so many Albions get into the land? Why don't anybody think about how so many of them got over here? How so many Albions get into the land? All right. So who was white people? I don't understand. Somebody said they was white people. Who was white people? All right. So what I'm saying is you want to understand that there were several groups of melanated people in the land. Now, understand this. When we're talking about these slaves that were being sold, because that's what would happen. The United States of America was involved with shipping slaves into the Americas. The original ones were Albions because it was cheaper to ship them in than it was to get slaves from Africa. Your Albion slaves were way cheaper than what you would get from Africa. So they're shipping these people in, these Albions, and then who were they selling them to? They got to be selling somewhere, because otherwise they're not going to keep kidnapping these people. And by the way, they were kidnapping people from other lands, Sicily, Ireland. All right, places like that. They would kidnap these people. There was some people being kidnapped from Britain. And then they would sell them in the Americas. Well, who was buying them? Well, the original people of the land, the so-called Indians, were buying them, along with other people. But definitely your Indians, we have documentation of them buying, owning slaves. The 5 civilized tribes, yeah, we got evidence and documentation of them owning slaves. So they took part in that too. Everybody took part in the slave trade, and then they ended up becoming slaves, some of them. And by the way, before I get out of here, I need y'all to understand, when Britain came into the land, some of the original people subjugated themselves to Britain. What does that mean? They agreed to pay taxes to Britain for whatever trickety treats Britain was trying to give them. Oh, we're going to give you protection. We're going to give you some trinkets. We're going to give you some blue jeans. Whatever it was that these people were selling. The people of the land gave up title. Well, they didn't give up full title. What they did was they gave permission to Britain to come into the land. And this is why you need to read those treaties, because it goes through it in detail exactly what happened. In those treaties, it specifically said that the land is in land patents, and it is still in land patents to this day for the original people, not nobody coming from Morocco. They never called the land Al Morocco, Al Mexico. This is the original people's land, and the land is still in land patents today. And you melanated people can't get it until you wake up and know who you are. If you keep calling yourself more, you keep calling yourself this, and you keep talking about this. By the way, I want y'all to understand something. You melanated folks, this is your land. And if you call it something different, then you give it up. You are the only one who has the right to call it anything. You melanated folk, you only ones who got the right to call it anything. But when you call it something else and you give it a title that belongs to somebody else, like Morocco, Al Moroccan, Mexican, who does it belong to? Y'all better find out who it belongs to before you start calling this land that. Because when you do, who do you turn it over to? Somebody else, because you gave it that title. You can't claim your land because you don't know who you are, and then you keep calling yourself something that you're not. And you keep allowing people to steal from you what belongs to you. Okay. Who are the Moors? Who are the Moors? You have a group here, and I got to get out of here, that's calling themselves Moors and got people saying that this land is of Al Maxim. There is no documentation anywhere showing that this is Al Maxim or Morocco or whatever. What you do have plenty of documentation of is that the original people never called this Al Maxim. The original people made it clear this is our land. And again, this land is in land patents to this day. The original land, or the land, is in the name of the original people, and it is in land patents to this day. So you've got this land here that's in the name of these original people, and the original people don't know who they are. You had a group of Moors that came in to the land, and you got documentation showing that. Documentation showing that the original people over here saying, hey, you know, we thought we were brothers. We've been trying to communicate with you, but you all won't communicate with us. We tried to communicate with Britain, but they told us that it was a fight between you two, these elite Moors and Britain, and y'all asked us to stay out of it, and we said that's fine, we would. But now y'all are doing some more other stuff, and you all are infringing on our land that we asked you not to. You all are killing our people for no reason. These are the original people talking to those running the United States of America. Not to mention we have treaties showing the deal between the original people and Britain. Who are the Moors? The original people didn't call themselves Moors. That was a title that these people, that whoever is trying to jumble up the history, where they're trying to claim that, the original people were Moors too. How is this? When you're claiming that these are people who came from another land into the land that we know of as America, where there were people already here. How you come from somewhere else and call this land, another name, when the people here didn't call it that name, and they are the only ones, and their descendants are the only ones who have the right to give this title, this land, a title. They're the only ones. And you people who don't know who you are, you melanated people, watch your mouth. Because you keep giving title of your land away to somebody else who's been running over you this whole time. I told you, Britain and Morocco have been in bed together. Britain and Morocco have been in bed together. For those of y'all who don't want to believe me, go do your research. Go do your research. Look up the Barbary Company. Find out who's a part of it. We're going to get to the bottom of this history. We're going to close up these holes. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out who the real people of this land are. Who are the original people? That's the question. All right. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree. I appreciate you all. Make sure you all stay tuned with us. We got a lot coming up here. We're building on this channel. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. All my students, load into the UNA University. If y'all want to hit me up on Diva Laree on Facebook. Y'all can visit us at unarepublic.com. I love you. I'm out. Bye-bye.